everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Crime, Cocktails, and BS. We are your hosts, Alex, and that's Kaisa up there. And today we are so excited to have on our podcast Samantha and Jenny from Unhinged and On Camera. Thank you both for being here
Yay,
with us today,
welcome.
especially
Yeah,
during
thanks for
daylight
having us.
savings.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us. Yeah, we're excited. We love a collab.
Yeah, we're gonna make this an unhinged crimes and cocktails.
Yeah, we love
We
an
might
unhinged app.
We might commit a crime on this podcast.
Honestly, we've almost done that probably a few
Yeah.
times. Every episode we say is unhinged regardless, so we're very
Mhm.
excited.
Yeah,
Great.
before we jump into all the specifics in pop culture and Bravo, we wanted to hear a little bit more about you guys and how you started Unhinged and On Camera. Tell us all about it.
Do you want
I'll-
to start, Jenny, or you want me to start?
You know, Sam has pushed the host on me. Even though like it's hilarious to me that I would even try to speak on the radio after like as a child being in speech therapy for like 1,000 years for my like 100
God.
speech impediments. So
That actually makes sense, though, because you're like
Yeah.
really leaning in and like, it's like I had dyslexia when I was a kid and struggled to read. And then I just like wanted to read a lot so that I could like overcome it. Overcompensation is sometimes the way to like,
I'm overcoming
our fears.
the horrible sound of my voice I have to listen to when I edit our podcast every week. That was one motivation.
Stop.
Me and Sam live on different coasts. Unfortunately, we met in college in New York, and I lived in New York for many years. But since moved to Los Angeles, and I'm becoming slowly Hollywoodized. But I've worked in reality TV from college. My first job was a PA on Puff Daddy's show.
Yes.
So we could talk about
Speaking
some
of-
crimes
speaking of
there.
crime.
And Sam and I used to watch Project Runway in like our dorm rooms, but Sam was like not really a reality girly. But then when she went to grad school to become a therapist, she really got into Bravo. And that's like when we just took our friendship to the next level. And we would like be on planes with like other friends talking about Bravo. And our friend would be like, are these friends you know?
Yeah.
And we were like, kind of. So
They feel like it after a while, for sure.
yeah. So she was visiting me, and I think we just were in depth, like going deep on 100 Bravo topics. And it just seemed like, oh my gosh, this is a way for us to hang out once a week and talk Bravo and have like an excuse. And then that was like number one. And then number two was we were and still are obsessed with Jamie Stein, who is our mentor, our like guiding light of life. And we were like, if we start a podcast, maybe we could do a collab with Jamie Stein and become friends with Jamie Stein. Like we were like stalker level. And
It's amazing.
No, manifestation. Amanda
Yeah.
Francis, manifestation.
Yeah,
Amanda-
you
yeah.
manifested it.
and like I think less than like not even
2
6
episodes
months.
in. Yeah.
Yeah, like we achieved that like so quickly. And yeah, we still like every time we get to talk to him, we just are like, tell us everything you think.
I love
But
that
yeah,
summary. I feel like a big part of how this came to was me and Jenny were sending each other these like insanely long voice notes. And we were like, we are hitting some funny, some interesting, some like deep stuff here. Like people want to hear it. And so we're like, let's test if people want to hear it.
Yes.
And it's surprising that people do.
Yeah. Every day.
No, we feel the same way. We're always like, wow, people actually want to hear our opinion on this. Great. Sounds awesome.
Yeah.
I feel
And
like
we
we
and
have-
Alex.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
I feel like we have like a unique perspective, like me as a therapist, kind of looking at like some of like the therapeutic aspects, interpersonal, the behavioral, kind of like looking at it through that lens. And then Jenny with her like understanding of like how reality TV works and understanding the intricacies of like what happens there, like gives us a unique perspective. Because I know there's other like therapist podcasts, there's other like producer podcasts,
Yeah.
but like none of that together. And so it's kind of like, I think it's a unique perspective.
And I think as a
Yeah, I can't
reality
wait to
TV
hear.
as a reality TV producer, we're all like sort of surviving post-traumatic television disorder because it's a hard job. And like now they're making all these expose docs. I don't know if you guys saw the Top Model one that
Yeah.
just came out. And it's
Yes.
pretty like frustrating because the reality reckoning is a lot about the stars, which is important. Like I'm not degrading that, but there's a lot of people who work behind the scenes that also like, you know, there's so many rules and things that aren't spoken about. So sometimes Sam will be like, why didn't the producers do this? Why didn't the producers do that? And I'm like, we can't. Or
Yeah.
what happens when Bravo says you need to do it this way? Like, so,
Yeah.
but how did you guys start this podcast? And what is your backgrounds? Like, I'm curious.
Yeah. So Kaisa and I have actually only met in person 3 times in 5 years. Yeah.
Changing that and visiting you
Yes,
this
we're
year.
changing that. So we actually started at the same company during COVID together, in 2021. And we were on the same team, and as most good friendships start out, we had a mutual hatred for, our manager at the time. So that's how we got started, and we were always talking about true crime, kind of same thing, sending each other voice memos that were ridiculous or on our friend calls because we would do like friend Zooms with other people in our company. And she and I would just kind of end up taking over the conversation, talking about true crime and the podcast we were listening to, but also what reality shows we were watching. And one of our friends, Gianna, who wouldn't be here without her today, just looked at us one day and was like, you guys either need to start a podcast or just talk separately about this because, like, while we enjoy it and you guys are complaining about how there's not one place for you to listen about both, like, you guys just need to do it or stop. So that was in 2023. And we've just
Yeah.
been doing it weekly ever since. Pretty
And we're on
much.
opposite coasts too.
Yeah.
I'm in California, she's in Boston.
Yeah.
So we're long distance as well.
Yeah. Just
The
super fun.
other coasts, that's if we
Yeah.
could just like
Yeah.
create like a time portal between the East Coast and the West Coast, that would be excellent.
Well, I
Yeah.
love the
Yes.
duality that we're sharing here. And on my
Yeah.
screen, it has me and Alex on the top. So, like, our East Coast on the
Cute.
top and then the West Coast on the bottom.
Oh, I love
West
that.
Coast is best. Just kidding.
I love the West Coast too. I would
Yeah,
love
it's
to live in
great.
California.
I tempt her every day to be like, it's 75. Why are you not living
But
here?
there are also beautiful things that, like, fall on the East Coast, like,
Yeah.
trumps almost anything in the world.
You can't beat
Like, if
it.
it could be
Yeah.
fall here all year round, I'd probably, like, never want to go anywhere else.
Yeah. No, I had a
Well,
full
it's-
mental breakdown like 2 weeks ago on Kaisa because she was like, "Oh, it's 60. I had to put my heat on." And I'm like, "I'm in a blizzard." Oh, no complaining.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
being a little insensitive there, but it's fine.
Yeah, Jenny posts a lot of Instagram insensitivity weather posts. It's like she
I
doesn't
go
even care
outside
how
a
this
lot.
makes me feel.
Yeah.
Or I feel like she's doing it particularly to trigger me or to get me to move.
Yeah, it's that. It's definitely that. It's interesting that you said, the crossover true crime and reality TV because I feel like in my career, I'm one of those weird unicorns who've done both true
Mhm.
crime and reality TV. And like, the industry has had a complete like collapse in the last 3 years. And I've been able to kind of navigate that in both doing true crime and hopping into docu-soaps. And it's great for me because I'll do a true crime show. It'll be really heavy stuff. And then I'll jump into Match Me in Miami. That's like matchmaking show. And I'm like, oh, okay, these stakes are so much lower than like an active
Yeah.
missing persons case. So for me, I love it, but a lot of people can't do both.
Mhm.
And I feel like true crime has really evolved to be sort of entertainment in both positive and negative way. A positive way in the sense of, working on disappeared for ID, open missing persons cases. It's so important for them to get publicity. And we worked on some really important cases of people who are still missing. And at the same time, the entertainment part of it can lead to just like harassment of the victims, just like all these YouTubers, all these podcasters just like flooding in and it's a lot. I think we're kind of reaching a weird like saturation point.
Mhm.
But it'll be interesting in the next year. I think some of the new documentaries that are coming out, I would love to see like documentaries that aren't straight true crime, but also sort of straddling the edge of just like entertainment Trainwreck on Netflix does that really well.
Mhm.
So, yeah, and then Bravo, I think, is probably the network that's doing the best right now and will continue to do the best right now because everything in Hollywood right now is held up by the merger of
Mhm.
Paramount and now
Warner
WB.
Brothers, yeah.
Yeah, and Netflix was briefly trying to buy them, so that kind of held up a lot of things. But so Bravo is now separate from
Mhm.
the rest of the NBC channels. So E is now under Versant
Mhm.
and Bravo is still under Peacock. So they're technically separate companies. So that's why you're seeing shows like The Golden Life with the old Ronin cast being greenlit on E and,
Mhm.
Mhm.
Daddy Andy Cohen's like wiping his hands of them and being like, I'm not involved in this Jill Zarin business. That's E's
Yeah.
problem now. So it'll be interesting to see how that split plays out. Some of these Bravo stars could go to different networks. And I think that's positive because I miss old Roni and it's kind of been a shame that Bravo's just been like waiting to see what to do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
agreed. We've talked about that a lot, and I think it's interesting too how those women are gonna be able to be on E, which I'm excited for too. I know Kaisa is. And with the Jill Zarin of it all, now having Dorinda, but also find it kind of fascinating that Carol Radswell is gonna be a friend of on Roni, but has been
Uh-huh.
mentioned in the Epstein files, like,
She blew
and
up
has been
because of the Epstein files, I
yeah,
think.
so it's like
She's back because
or are they gonna, like, deal with that as that kind
Mhm.
of continues to unfold?
Well, I
But
guess
yeah,
they
it
didn't deal with Whitney being in the Epstein files from Southern Charm.
yeah, right? I
Right.
know that
And I imagine there's more than we know Bravo
yeah.
stars that are in the Epstein files. And I think
Yeah.
it's interesting this idea that you guys are into like crime and Bravo, because I think Bravo is like one of the reality like hubs that has a lot of true crime going
Mhm.
on in it, like with
Yes.
Wendy, with Mary, with like,
Yeah.
there's so much like crime that ends up coming out in these shows. And yeah, like now you're seeing with like Carol coming back and she's in the Epstein's files. My notes I wrote in Epstein's files, but not on Love Story because they
Not
didn't like
on Love
highlight
Story,
her
yeah. They left her
because
out.
she didn't get to go in the Love Story, but she's in the Epstein files, which also like makes you think like her husband must have been in the Epstein files, and right,
Mhm.
like then like where does that also mean that Carolyn Bessette and like JFK might have, but it might have also been like, and what does it mean if you were in it versus like having been complicit in a crime? And I think it's really hard with those files to like do that deliberation of like who knew what. And I think, yeah, do we then just like write off anyone who's associated with it? How do we know? And like, how do we hold this like duality of like who is responsible for what? Like, because she was friends with Ghislaine
Yeah.
Maxwell, is she complicit? Like, it's a really big question. One I don't personally have an answer for, and I'm always as a
So,
therapist trying to hold those dualities of like good and bad
Yeah.
and like what like does all that mean?
so wait, like just to clarify, because I have spared my soul and brain of diving into the Epstein files. So she's just listed because she was like meeting up with Giselle or like
Well, she
Gazelle
was friends with
McAfee.
her.
She's
Oh.
She, if you look at Carol's book, her author photo is by
Is by Ghislaine.
Ghislaine,
Yeah.
Ghislaine, however you say it. Yeah,
Ghislaine,
Yeah.
yeah.
like they were friends.
She took the author photo on her book.
Yeah, and there's, like, multiple photos of them together at parties and yeah, just kind of like this whole line of
So that's pretty
evidence. Yeah.
close.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I feel like she needs to address it, but it is interesting. I'm interested to see her. I don't know who she's like connected to. I also like very loosely followed that new girl was like body shaming Claudia
Yeah.
from the toast.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then page 6 was like she shouldn't be. It's just what's wild is like I don't know what Bravo's like how they, kind of dive into these people before they cast them and maybe they don't care that much. I don't
Yeah.
know.
It's
Yeah,
Well, and
what
I
do
think
they
we're in an
care
error.
about
We're in an
versus
error where, like, how much can you dive? Because we're in this transitionary period of, like, quote unquote wokeness, where, like, prior, like, 10, 15 years ago, like, it wasn't taught to like not be certain ways. And so like if you're going to negate anyone who's ever made like a racist or like terrible comment in the world, like there's going to be very few people to choose from. And like I do think there's something of like holding yourself accountable, that like you are a person that is learning and trying to grow and being able to speak openly about that, which is like Carol should talk about like, let us know, why were you in there? Were you friends with her? Were you complicit? Like, and like I don't, it feels like now it's always going to be this thing when you see her of like, oh, like I like you, you're cool girl vibes, you share similar values as me, and like I know you were friends with this person who was a monster to young women, who was a perpetrator to young women.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think she has to acknowledge it. Otherwise, I'll write her off, honestly.
Well, I think everyone deserves, like, I mean, I keep hammering this on our podcast, but I'm sorry, I still want it. And I don't think she can speak, but I really want Jen Shaw's, like, sit down.
Yeah.
I know.
I'm like, she said so much on the show, and it's like,
She could do it
okay,
somewhere
then you
else. She
pled
doesn't have to do it on
guilty.
Bravo.
Well, yeah.
She
Mhm.
does.
Pick it
I'm
up.
surprised.
Pick it up, B.
Pick
Yeah,
it
come on, E.
up. Pick it up. But
You're
yeah,
taking all of Bravo's like breadcrumbs or whatever
Yeah,
they're
right?
leaving on the floor. Pick up Jen. We all watch it.
I got a lot of shit because I said I wanted to see Jen Shaw and
Yeah,
I
we
wanted to
had
hear her
Jenny
perspective.
Blazon from Bravo and Blaze. We went in a whole conversation about how we all want to hear her side of it, like where she's at now. And people were like, she should not be allowed to get back on TV.
Like,
She
how is
such a
her
bad
crime
person.
worse than Karen Huger that everyone stood up and gave her? She literally put people's lives in danger. Like, she could have
Yeah.
killed many, many people. Like, this is her, fifth DUI? Like, and looking at those videos, like, you
Right.
should have killed someone. You were so...
Teresa Giudice was in jail for fraud too. Like, why is it okay that we built an entire show around her coming out of jail?
Right, like her crimes were as harmful to people as Jen's. And so like why is Jen being put not that I think we need Jen back on Salt Lake. I actually don't think I think it's doing better without her. But this idea that she's being ostracized for her crimes versus all these other people. And I guess I felt really triggered by this standing ovation of Karen Huger, who still isn't willing to admit that she's an alcoholic and still isn't willing to admit she doesn't still fully, even in her whole interview, there was this distancing herself from full accountability by being like, look at all these good things I did. And we don't need to pay attention to the things I did bad. Like, I'm going to disown that part. And it's like, no, we need you to take that so that we know you're going to change.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, if you're chugging alcohol all day at Legal Seafood in the mall, you have a
Oh my
problem.
God. Yeah.
But I mean, there's something fascinating to me about the psychology of these Bravo people who come on reality TV, know they're committing crimes or fraud or have some kind of schemes, and, don't seem, I mean, like Wendy with reporting that rings were stolen and then
her
wearing them
husband's
on
a fucking lawyer. Her husband's a lawyer. He knows the law. It's not even like they can play dumb. He knows he's a lawyer, and she's got 10 degrees. Like, wild.
Well, this is a question I wanted to ask you, Sam, in particular, is going on reality TV, knowing you've committed these crimes, I think going on reality TV, period, especially now where people feel so curated, no one's really authentically themselves anymore because they want to be this persona for reality TV. How many or how much do you think narcissism can play into this? Because it's if you've committed these crimes and you're still this hungry for attention and wanting to be famous in some way, how much do you just kind of get to that delusional state of oh, well, nothing will come out, or if it does, I'll be fine.
Yeah, I think a lot of them do probably hold different narcissistic traits. I wouldn't necessarily want to diagnose anyone,
right.
But I think you have to have a certain level of narcissistic traits to want to be on TV in that way and be driven in that way. And I do think what we see is when people kind of ease into committing crimes and they get away with it, the ante goes up. It's oh, well, I didn't get in trouble for that. And so I could probably do more. The way the dopamine hits when you like get away with something or when you get the reward of the crime, right? Like I imagine in Jen Shah's case, like, oh, I'm getting all this money, the dopamine hits of like money and power and things, right? Like she's a very materialistic person, and having access to those things, having access to that privilege, the more you get away with it, the more you want to do it, and the more you think like, okay, well, no one's going to catch me, right? Like I'm getting away with it. And so the chances of me getting caught. I also do think there's probably some like dissociation from the fact that it's a crime that happens, like this idea of like, well, if it's not her. This is why I think the thing with Karen is so different. But like when you're doing these like financial crimes, like there isn't like it's harder. It's easier to distance yourself from the idea that there's like a victim. And so I think you're able to like rationalize or do a lot of like mental gymnastics to feel like it's not that bad, or it's not something that's going to get me in that much trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah, dissociation, I guess, would
Mhm.
be. But it's interesting. Like
One of you said on a podcast, Delulu is the Salulu.
That was me.
Yeah, that was Alex.
I think that is it, right? Like there's like
Yeah.
some, sorry, Jenny, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I was just remembering
God,
that because
no,
I
I
like
had
loved
not
it.
heard-
I'd never heard it before, but I loved it.
I'm so
It's so
surprised people
good.
haven't heard it. I like say it all the time. I've heard it from somewhere. I picked it up, and like I'm so glad I could bring it to the world in some way.
It's so amazing because I've been telling other TV producers, like, you just need to be a delusional and like make your own stuff, do your own thing, because like the industry is so bad right now. And so that is going to be my new mantra. Just so
That
you know.
really
It was
makes me
amazing.
want to talk about Amanda Francis. Can we talk about her?
Yes.
Let's do
Because
it.
I feel like
Let's do it.
she's living life that Delulu is the Salulu, right? Like this
Yeah.
idea, like where is manifestation? And like I'm pro man. Like we created our podcast as a manifestation to be friends with Jamie Stein, and it worked.
Yeah.
So I'm not like against manifestation, but like there for her, it definitely like feels.
There's like a dark undertone with everything she says and does. And you get that energy when she's talking, like she's trying to put someone else down rather than build herself up.
Well, it's interesting because I read she came from like a religious cult. She was in a religious cult, and it makes me think like there must have been like ideas in the way whoever was kind of like the cult leader, whatever, I'm doing air quotes because I don't know sort of like how they structured their cults, but there must have been things that she took in from that like it feels like now she like puts into her own life, and in this idea of being like it's interesting that she became like a counselor and a like business coach, and it feels like she wants to like take on like almost that like cult leader place a little bit.
Well,
I don't
there's
know.
been times where I'm like, does she know that she's like playing the villain and like intentionally doing so? Especially like when she goes on interviews and says like, I'm the only self-made housewife. And she's
Yeah.
like, you must be. But also I feel like with her, yeah, there's times where I'm like, when she explains her reasoning, I'm like, okay, that makes sense, but there's a translation. It's almost like exactly what you said, like the tone, because when she talks about her husband and how, she pays for everything and she makes in a month what he makes in a year, you know what? That's factual. And she should be proud of herself. And there's many men who on Bravo especially, like they make the majority of the money and the wives stay home. So, why shouldn't she praise herself for that? But it's like the way she says it, especially in conversation with the other women, it's just so, it's like downgrading.
It's
like,
degrading. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, and I feel like she weaponizes everything. Like everything is used as a way to like gain power over someone. Like she wants so much control. Like even in these settings where she's like having conflict and she's like, you can't speak to me that way. But there's no like, but wait, like you were just as much in that way, and why is it okay for you to speak them that way? But there's sort of this feeling of like I'm above everyone, like this she's like pedestaled herself into this position of like I have more power and I need to constantly like weaponize these narratives to show that I have power and privilege over all of these women, which is like, she invites them all over to do this money manifestation. All these women are rich. They don't need to the only one who needs to manifest money is Erica, and she's the one who engaged. Like, which makes sense.
Gifting
Like,
them all a signed copy of her book And like,
she couldn't stand that they like weren't into the journaling, and
yeah,
she couldn't stand that they weren't all like so in awe of her and her skills with manifestation.
Which
And
again speaks to like
she
a cult
buys
leader
their
who's
old
looking
house.
for constant validation, looking for constant praise. Like she says, besides a couple of haters, everyone else like loves me. Everyone else thinks this is great. Like, and it's giving cult leader.
yeah. I mean, she
Yeah.
was just
Well,
on Watch What Happens Live too, and instead of kind of taking that as a moment of like self-reflection, kind of owning up to things, taking that accountability, she was doubling down on every. I mean, they had a segment that's like, "Do you regret this?"
Mm-hmm.
And everything she's like, "Nope, don't regret," and then blaming the other women. Like, they talk about labels all the time when she got on the plane and, like, head to what was it, Louis Vuitton or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
like, full head to toe, and then talking about how she spent $10,000 on crystals and, like, all these things. She says it's a way to make herself relevant to the group and a way to get in and ingrain herself. But in reality, the way that she says it and the way that it comes off as like, "I'm better than you."
Mm-hmm.
And look, I've manifested all this and I've created all this. And a part of the cult was that, and a lot of cults too, how they're structured is when you do get out of it, you really have nothing because they've isolated you so much from the
Mm-hmm.
outside world.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of the overcompensation can be making all this money and then kind of speaking about it all the time. I mean, she's one I've not really seen a lot make it her career,
Mm-hmm.
but she
Yeah.
just takes it in such a way that's just I wanna say borderline nauseating.
Well, and when I'm trying to hold like that humanistic, like trying to be empathic, like I think if I was working with this person, like what would I like how would I try to hold empathy for her?
Mhm.
Is that coming from a cult where someone else has so much power and control over you, it makes sense that she maybe, yeah, like you were saying, like overcompensates or feels this need to feel so in control. Even this idea with her husband, like she's like letting people know, like, I am not weak and vulnerable, like I am in control of everything. And because she even compares, like, I didn't let a man take care, right? I think she like compares herself to Dorit in some like
Mhm.
vague, she doesn't name it that way, but it's clearly meant to like be compared to like Dorit's situation. And it does feel like, oh, I'm like, oh, this person is so deeply insecure and afraid of being out of control. And likely because there was probably some sort of either emotional or some type of like abuse that occurred in that cult that like made her feel really powerless and made her feel really scared and right like needing and like you're saying like coming out of it like having nothing and that being a sense of being out of control. And so I guess if I'm trying to like hold some empathy for her, I want to like kind of hold on to this part of her that's probably feeling really like scared of vulnerability and needs to like kind of like puff up her chest or needs to like kind of create these walls of like power through money and through things and through which I think a lot of them do, especially like Kyle. I have a lot of feelings about Kyle. We can talk about her too,
well,
but
I'm curious, like, how much she watched the show because it does kind of come off like, even when you were talking about, like, how much she spent on crystals, like, it almost feels like she wanted to have that, like, Beverly Hills moment. And then
Mhm.
also, she watches the fights on Bravo and is like, "I'm not gonna conduct myself that way, and this is how I'm gonna make sure I don't." I mean, the idea of asking Kathy Hilton to journal manifesting money is just hilarious to
Yeah.
me. But there's nothing more deadly on reality TV than watching people journal. And so
mhm.
I will say there is no way a full crew spent at her house was going to let them journal for more than 10 minutes because
Yeah.
that is a huge waste of money and time. So I also
Well,
want
let's
to
not even
give the
get into like
ladies,
the racial aspect of asking Bozeman to
Yeah.
manifest about money as like a black woman who probably had to fight her way into success. And like
Yeah.
manifestation is not going to work for a black woman in America where there is racism that is alive and well.
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so
I
it's
love that she doodled the
tone deaf.
drawing instead.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Sorry, Jenny, I didn't
Yeah,
mean
no,
to interrupt you, but I was
no, but
feeling
I
like
think that's a really good point because me and Sam have talked about Bravo Docket did like a big breakdown on her whole scheme, what
Mhm.
her business slash scheme. And I think that was a good point they made is like a lot of these books and hers included are kind of for like cisgender.
privileged white women.
Oh, yeah.
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 Absolutely.
That doesn't apply to someone who's, working for minimum wage maybe came over to this country as an immigrant. Like, there's just so many factors that, like, manifesting is not going to, like, get you your Malibu Barbie dream house. Like, I
Or
also
even pay
have been
your rent for
manifesting
your
that.
rent stabilized apartment.
Yeah. The
And it's
crying
just,
over
like,
the Barbie dream house.
ironic. It's ironic that the first stage in her little, like, course situation, it's, like, 2,500 or something more than that to get started, and it's,
Mhm.
like, tricking these women into paying a lot of money to make money, but it doesn't I don't know, it doesn't add up. You have to be wealthy to start that anyway, so
Which,
it's
I mean,
for
there's a
privileged white
lot of
women.
talk. Yeah, and I mean, I know a lot of people are saying this season of Beverly Hills is, like, boring. I actually really like it. I think there's
Same.
deep conversations. I don't always need huge conflict between the women. Sometimes when that's forced, I feel like I don't really like it. I like that we're diving into the psychology of a lot of these women more, and, like, Dorit spending K at, a store in the Hamptons, like, a part of me feels like Dorit did not come from poverty. Like, I also feel like her family has money. Like, I feel like Dorit knows if PK is not going to pay the bill, her parents will, or
Mhm.
she's gonna, put an Instagram
And she's
post.
got money of her own.
Yeah,
Yeah, she
exactly.
Yeah.
influences. She has her bathing suit line. She has her Bravo money. Like, she is not destitute here.
I'm sure
Right.
one post on her Instagram is worth more than $5,000 for sure.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But what's really interesting about the Dorit of it all in that moment was Kyle being like, she's so unhinged for spending. Meanwhile, like, historically, Kyle has a shopping addiction.
And
Right.
she even makes Mo pay for her shopping in, like, the most recent episode.
Yeah, I was gonna say that just happened. Yeah.
It's pretty wild to me to watch Mo and Kyle this season be separated. Need to keep Kyle needs to keep clarifying. And I know, like, some producers who've worked with these Bravo celebrities, and one of the things I've heard is that Kyle's very sensitive, and you should never say she's divorced. She will clarify. And you even saw in the episode when Rachel said she's getting divorced. She's like, no, we're just separated. And I find it something very unhinged that the two of them will not seem to, like, get a divorce or decide what they're doing at all, but then just project everything onto Dorit and PK and try and, like, muddle in their divorce. Like, literally Mo saying, like, you have no agreements and da da da. Meanwhile, Kyle's pulling out a credit card and putting all of her, and to me, it's like Kyle doesn't see that she's being so clearly manipulated by Mo, who just doesn't want to have to deal with separating the
Financial, yeah.
finances
Yeah.
because he knows how much she's gonna lose in that. He gets to have his cake and eat it too. And, at the same time judging Dorit for wanting a divorce, wanting a clean slate, filing,
Mhm.
like.
And I think part of her judgment is that, like, there's some part of her that's maybe envious or feels a certain way towards Dorit's ability to, like, just let it all out. Like, we
Mhm.
just kind of like, because Kyle's so reserved and so not in touch with her emotional vulnerability. And to see, like, Dorit just kind of like go with, like, these are all the feelings I have about PK. These are all the feelings, like, and not
She's
necessarily
labeling
be
it
worried about
mania.
yeah, it's like, no, that's just
So
her going through big emotions about a separation.
Yeah.
And even, like, yeah, is it a great platform to be talking about certain personal things about your ex when you're divorcing? Probably not. Like, there's definitely things I'm like, "Ugh, that's not, like, if the kids see this, that's not great." But it's also, like, valid. Like, she's decided to put her life out there, and these are the things she's feeling and experiencing. She's not a therapist. She's not a psychiatrist, not diagnosing him an alcoholic. She's saying her experience. Kyle, I'd like to see more of that from you. Your husband is, like,
seriously.
in a regressive period of dating, young women and partying
Yeah.
all night at, what, almost 50? Like, I'm sure you have some feelings about that, and yet, like, we never hear it. So I don't know. I think it's time for Kyle.
Well,
Yeah,
and
we
Same.
talk about that
Yeah.
all the time.
the backstory too on PK and Dorit is, like, I know people who know them, and PK wanted Dorit to be on the show desperately. So
For sure.
he still participates in interviews and stuff, but with Kyle, it's interesting that she keeps saying, like, Dorit's acting different, da 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 da. Kyle, I've never seen a person on reality TV take such a shift, such a
Mhm.
personality change from the white parties and her splits to I don't drink. Am now secretly
Yeah.
dating a woman, but aren't going to say it. I'm going to work out every single day of my life. Like, she literally between seasons became an entirely different person. And
Yeah.
she
I mean,
still has never addressed that.
yeah, but and
Yeah.
Dorit said it in this most recent episode, like, or both, some one of them did, how they're saying that Dorit's acting erratically and doing all these things and spending all this money that she doesn't have and all this. But then also saying like, but Kyle went through this huge shift, but no one really went after her the way that they're going after Dorit. And I think we're seeing like, and Kaisa and I were just talking about this before starting to record, like I think they're trying to do this major setup for this Dorit versus Kyle and Erica that's coming up on the Italy trip to kind of give the season a bit more of that old school life of like needing that major conflict because again like we're seeing these deeper stories of like and I was talking to my mom about this about Sutton and the name change and the annulment from the Catholic Church like I actually find
Or her
that
husband
story
dating
her
her best
friend
friend.
Best
Like, how did
friend,
we not know
yeah.
more about that? Like,
Yeah,
why
like,
is
I
that
was
not
shocked
a
at
bigger
that.
story? Bring that
yeah.
woman on. I want that
Exactly, like, that's
story.
something I personally am
Seriously.
more interested in learning about and understanding that more about Sutton because everyone last season and the season before was saying, like, "We don't know Sutton. Sutton's just, like, this essential bobblehead of my ex-husband has all this money and pays for me to do things," and we started to see more of her last season with her mom, but, like, that storyline and understanding this part of Sutton is way more interesting to me than, like, watching Dorit spend money and people being fake worried about her.
Agreed.
I was gonna say about Erica, it's ironic that it's Erica and Kyle because Erica also like hides so much of her personality and like so much of what's going on in her life. So I don't know. I think the whole concept of like, them telling Dorit, don't say things on a reality show. I mean, Kyle knows that's what the audience has been going after her for. So the fact that she does that is pretty wild because also you don't need to be on a reality show. Like Dorit signed up for this, and to me, I don't think she's saying anything that's that crazy. I mean, I know they're all saying PK's a great husband, blah blah blah, but like even just watching the show, you could tell PK's like never home with his children. I mean, how can you be a great hands-on dad if you're never home with your children? I mean, and I don't think Dorit is saying anything beyond he's just not present,
No, she
which
said
is
things about
fair.
his drinking, and I feel like
Yeah.
that can get a little tricky and a little sensitive, I do think. But also, like, again, she's going through a separation, and a lot of these things are bubbling towards the surface, and she made a commitment to be on reality TV, and she'll have to work it out with her kids, like, in therapy and in different spaces later. And yeah,
I
unfortunately,
just
that
think
is,
that's
like,
so
the
I just think that's unfair for Dorit because PK is the one who brought his alcoholism to the show. He
Mhm.
Mhm.
weaponized it against her in that dinner and was like, yeah, I'm an alcoholic and you're not supporting me in my alcoholism. Then went on Alex Baskin's podcast to talk
Oh,
all
yeah.
about his alcoholism. So to me, I'm like,
yeah, you're
Dorit
not
has not
wrong.
said anything that he
Yeah,
didn't bring to the table himself, you
that's
know?
fair.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fair.
No,
I
totally, and I
appreciate
think
that.
this is where, like, Rachel Zoe kind of entering the show may help Dorit more of, like, dealing with her kids and the divorce and kind of how to step into that. Granted, Rachel is, like, maybe a year ahead of her in kind of dealing with everything, or at least in the same timeline. I mean, we are very big fans of Rachel Zoe. Would love to
Yeah.
get your opinion on her and her resurgence in reality TV. But I think she's been like such a great new addition and also like a new person for Dorit, especially to kind of like work with in this area because Kyle's giving her nothing because Kyle won't actually admit that her relationship is over or it's whatever this facade is.
Yeah, I love Rachel Zoe. I was a huge fan of her show originally. I
Mhm.
loved her and Roger together, so I was actually really devastated that they were getting divorced. And I know some
Roger with a
producers.
D.
Oh yeah,
Sorry.
Roger with the D. I know some producers from Beverly Hills, and they kind of were like, Rachel is a bit tied, like she can't say too much about the divorce, so I wasn't
Mhm.
expecting much. So the last episode where she kind of gave a lot more of the reasons, I was surprised, happily surprised, and I think it was a master class in what Kyle should do. She gave enough that you can really put together what happened. There was a clear timeline. It was her story. She didn't bash him unnecessarily. Um, you know, even in some ways, I think the stuff about the girlfriend, like, you love Rachel Zoe, and I'm like, you know, I wish she would, like, let it go, but then at the same time, I respect her saying, "My kids don't wanna be around this woman. I wanna honor that." But, yeah, I mean, she's obviously, you know, thriving post-divorce, from a year prior from when she talked about in the Hamptons. But, yeah, I just feel like she's being open without having to spill all the messy details. And
Yeah.
I think, both Kyle and Dorit could take a lesson from that.
Yeah, I really love her. I think she's really authentic. I think she's really bringing like personal stuff in a way that I feel like has been missing a lot from Beverly Hills. And again, I kind of want to piggyback off of what Jenny's saying around like, yeah, we just want people to be open and do it in their authentic way. And doesn't mean they have to disclose every detail,
Yeah.
but to be able to like name your feelings and be able to share what's happening in your life is like what this is supposed to be about. It's not really supposed to be about just like conflict for conflict's sake.
Yeah. I think Amanda, or Scamanda as I call her, could take some guidance from Rachel, because Rachel is the moneymaker in that situation. Didn't Roger, like, everyone worked for her. So she's the moneymaker in the family. She's not throwing her ex under the bus or calling that out constantly. So I think she's more tasteful in the way she's going about it. And she's empowering herself rather than like bringing a bunch of people down because of her struggles. So
I think she's inferring, like, Roger's position in her company is maybe part of the divorce
Mhm.
yeah.
without kind of saying it was either an ego fault on his part or there was some kind of shystiness of the company, but I think those things could be inferred if you wanted to at the same
Yeah,
time,
maybe.
but she's not saying that.
Right, it's
So,
not overt, it's not meant to,
Yeah.
like, put him down, it's not meant to be like, I'm the one with all the money and he's, whatever, in this positionality.
I'd love to,
Yeah.
like, rewatch the Rachel Zoe project because I thought the
Yeah.
clips they pulled of how Roger, like, sort of spoke down to her was really interesting because I didn't remember their relationship like that at all, but
Same.
Mm,
obviously it was there, you know?
Yeah,
yeah, that would be an
agreed.
interesting rewatch.
Mhm.
Yeah, especially now too, Brad Goreski came out saying that he feels, like, super triggered with all this love for Rachel Zoe and how he and a bunch of other assistants experienced a whole other side of her than
Mm,
one we're getting, which, I mean, I think is in any business, but it is kind of fascinating now to see how, you know and I think on any reality show when someone comes back, I think, like you pointed out earlier, Sam, with Karen coming back to the standing ovation from everyone after her stuff, obviously, Rachel didn't have the same situation, just like a break from reality TV. But it is interesting how when someone does come back in this way, we almost kind of like forget any or like kind of intentionally forget anything
mhm,
negative that could have been there before.
Mhm.
mhm.
So true.
Which kinda, like, speaks to the Carol of it all as well, right?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
I
Yeah, absolutely.
Are we happy with the Roni, like, recast? Are we happy?
think Roni needs to go.
I don't
That's
know.
my opinion. But, like, when they have their reunions, it gets exciting. I don't know. Like, every time we hit the reunion, I'm like, "Okay, bring these ladies back, maybe. Maybe." And then when it gets to the season, it's so boring. So we'll
I'm
see what
definitely more
happens.
excited for the E-Roni than I am
Yeah.
for,
Yeah, exactly.
this Roni. I guess I'm curious, like, they have some new women. I'm always willing to watch what they'll give me. Like, even with
Mhm.
the
Yeah.
old new Roni that
Yeah.
I like to call it the influencers of New York because I feel like
Mhm.
that's what it really should have been targeted as. I watched it. Was entertained by it. Like, I think again, and maybe we're experiencing this with Vanderpump Rules as well. Like, this comparison to the old really makes it hard to like sit with what you're being presented.
Yeah.
I feel that a lot with like I kind of like the new Vanderpump Rules, but if I have to compare it to the old, it's something so different
Mhm.
that it feels like it's unfair to that cast to have to like constantly be comparing them to something of 15 years ago.
Yeah, I think that's when, like, just a name change for the show would have been helpful for both parts, 'cause that comparison is it's so obvious, and we talked about it with Vanderpump Rules, like, first couple episodes, we're like, "Okay, so he's supposed to be Jax, that's supposed to be Stassi." Like, you get into that mindset because of how long that show was on prior and how much people loved it and gotten to know the people on it, and it's
Right,
same
those were
thing
our
with
friends. We had a
Yeah,
relationship.
exactly. Yeah.
Which I feel like the authentic relationships on Vanderpump Rules were interesting. Like, I liked Marcus. I think Kim is unwell, and maybe if he was on the show without her, he would be more interesting to me. I
Really,
didn't
I
like
think
the,
they have an interesting dynamic.
but I just like she's really like she made me just feel like she was insufferable with like Natalie. You
Yeah.
can't be like friends with I was like, are
God.
you 12? But I think the like clear casting of the cousins who've been on like 5 reality dating shows like just felt like forced, which is funny because like Shane was
And the
also
incest of all that
clearly
was definitely downplayed. I
Yeah.
feel like I
So
am still
upsetting.
uncomfortable about it. And like,
Yeah.
why was that not like, why was that just like, oh, no big deal?
Mhm.
well, and it's an interesting dynamic that these young people who are trying to be actors are now making money on OnlyFans, but I don't know. It really got it wasn't like explored. And again,
Well,
they
it's like
just
this
like
is like a
even
dark part of OnlyFans too, that you like feel like you need to do like sexual things with your cousin to get like that's
Yeah.
like dark to
Cousin.
me that like that's how like that's where you have to go to like be different or stand out or get like the money that you like I don't, that feels like a dark part of it.
that's a
The whole
crime. That should be a
Yeah.
crime.
the whole show is like set up differently. Sir is struggling, so they're trying to win back customers coming to Sir along with the show. So like
It should be a
at the
landmark. They
beginning,
shouldn't
Sir
let
was
it suffer.
thriving. Yeah. So
Like
it's
that
like they
backyard,
tried
like
to
if they like sold Sir one day and had to like repaint that Sir sign, it like that would be a crime. Like
Yeah.
West Hollywood
the
should
alley.
make that a landmark.
Yeah.
I don't think West Hollywood likes syrup. They did change Pump, and now Pump is Rooster Fish, which is like another iconic like gay bar in LA. So it's interesting to see that corner no longer be Pump and no longer be like owned by Lisa Vanderpump. I don't know. I think the show has a lot of potential. I think they need to change up the cast a little bit. Um, Venus is like the star of that show for
Yeah.
sure.
I love Venus.
I like Natalie too. I think Natalie has a lot to bring. I really like Shane's story. Like I think that's like a to be able to see someone come from addiction, and I think coming from like if we're doing the comparison looking at like Laura Lee and like where she was like sharing her addict journey to like now this I think that's can be really helpful to people to like normalize that. And
I like the way they casted him. Like it didn't seem as forced with Shane
right, they
because
didn't
he
like
wasn't.
force him to work there.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah,
interesting when they brought his family in and his dad was like already drunk or already high
Yeah.
when he picked him up at the airport. Like that whole story was really interesting to see it and it explains him a lot.
Mm-hmm.
like speaking about titles, I don't know if any of you have seen the new Ladies of London, which kind of has a nice subtitle like The New Reign.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think it's really good. It's interesting because Bravo has a very specific editing style. And when you work for Bravo, you have to learn that style. And oftentimes, Bravo's very strict. Like you have to have Bravo credits to get Bravo credits. So maybe that's loosening up. And then when you saw Hulu come in with Mormon Wives and, Vanderpump Villa and kind of they took the Bravo model and sort of was like, what if we did Bravo but added the most like unhinged interviews and just like a lot of them?
Yeah.
And so the first couple of Hulu shows I watched, I was like, wow, I feel like I'm on drugs watching this, but like also kind of in a good way. And what you saw with Next Gen NYC is sort of a very similar style where it was a lot of interviews, a lot of cast members. They didn't care that there was like tons of cast members. I had one of the biggest, highest premieres in Peacock history. So when you watch Ladies of London, it's a very similar style. Like they throw at you so many cast members. They also have a cast member who like, spoiler alert, quits like in the second episode. And they could have easily cut around this
Right.
person. But I'm glad they didn't, because she had a big name in London society, and like the way she acted in the show was very unhinged, and it was entertaining to watch, even though I will never see her again. But you never know.
Yeah.
Maybe next season she does come back. It felt very Mormon Wives again, because like Demi's now quitting the show. So it's interesting to see how the other networks play off each other. Like Hulu has success, so then Bravo's like, wait, we could do a little bit of what they're doing.
Mhm.
And now E's getting into the game, so they're going to kind of make their own style.
Hmm.
Something to look out.
Well, it's good.
It's really
I
interesting.
think something we said a while ago, Jenny, was that like Bravo needed to take more risks. And so like I think this forces them to take more risks and like get out of like the comfy, and maybe they'll fire Kyle.
Yeah,
Why
I
is
mean,
that
I
my
think
dream?
no, it's ours too.
Everyone's asking for it.
Yeah, it's just so many of these casts need a shakeup and more than just like bringing old people back or, people who it just feels like so many people who come on now have curated this persona for themselves that we're not getting. Like, I miss like old season 1, 2, 3 of like Jersey or
Mm.
OC, where you got like more of that unhinged, authentic behavior, which is why I think Ladies of London is like so exciting right now, because we're actually getting that, and why like Hulu or other networks were enjoying those a bit more, because they haven't necessarily like created the formula yet for people to come on their shows.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I also am super biased. I'm from Rhode Island, so The Real Housewives of Rhode Island is I will watch, but not necessarily like super excited about, because
I feel the
Excited.
same way. I feel the same way because I'm originally from Rhode Island as well.
no way.
I think we may have talked about this originally,
Yeah.
but yeah, I grew up in Rhode Island from like age, birth through 8, and then like spent summers there, and my whole family now lives there. But yeah, when they said Real Housewives of Rhode Island, I was like, but are there rich people like that in Rhode Island? Which I mean, I guess there are, but I just don't think of it as like glamorous. And I used to have a very thick Rhode Island accent when I was a kid. So listening to them is kind of like it's coming back
It's
to me.
grating. It's something like my mom and my mom definitely has a strong Rhode Island accent. I
Right.
actively worked on not having one, even though now that I've lived in Boston again for like 3 years, there's definitely words that come out or I catch myself saying things. But no, completely agree. And then finding out the locations where they've filmed at, like Goddard Park is not a glamorous place.
Oh my God, they filmed at Goddard Park.
Yeah. Exactly. Like when you're from there or you've spent time there and you know the places that they've filmed at, you're like, I don't know how they're going to pull that off. But yeah, and then I mean, now we're getting more crossovers from other networks like Ashley Iaconetti coming from The Bachelor and now being on Bravo, like which I thought we would never see really.
Mm.
Yeah, it's going to be I don't know. I don't know how to feel about it personally. I'm trying to be open to it.
Well, I
but-
think they're smart in bringing Dolores into
Oh,
it.
yeah.
I think the shows that are successful right now are the ones that are pulling from Bravo archives, if you will, and bringing in. So maybe the Carol Radziwill of it all will work out. I think pulling from other franchises and other shows is a mixed bag. Like I said, I think the cousins on Vanderpump just to me didn't feel authentic. It felt like this is another way for them to get OnlyFans. But I like Ben from The Bachelor on Summer House. I
Mhm.
think that works. Sally Carson from Southern Charm, we're going to do a
Yeah.
deep dive into her. And she's been on, Bachelor, a couple other reality
That's
shows.
right. I forgot about
She was
that.
on Southern Hospitality.
Which I totally forgot about until I was at the gym last week and they had old Southern Hospitality episodes on and she was there and I'm like, what? I was like, Sally, what's happening? I forgot about you here. Like, yeah, just the hopping. Yeah.
Which I thought that was an
Sally.
interesting choice when they pulled her from that show onto. But there's so much
Mhm.
crossover, and Charleston is such a small place.
Small, yeah.
Mhm.
I'm interested if Allie from Vanderpump Rules, I think she tried to like force herself onto one of those
Mhm.
shows.
Yeah.
It
I
has
could
to
see
be
her on other
authentic.
Southern Hospitality. Like her and Grace Lilly could get along really well.
Grace Lily.
I can't believe Grace Lily's still on the show. She just like
Right?
pops up in
But I
comedy.
think that's like enough of her. Like I actually feel like
Mhm.
the way they utilize her is perfect because we like want more, but we don't actually need more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like perfect.
Charleston is an unhinged place. I mean, that still of Charlie's face in Mexico
Oh my
about
god.
Craig. I mean, it lives in
Oh
my
my gosh.
brain. Like, there's just times during the day where I'm just, that image comes up and I'm just like, this person is so damaged by her first season on TV.
I know. I feel
Yeah.
bad for her. It's like it's bad.
Wait, can we talk about Craig for just one moment? I want to
Absolutely.
hear Sam's perspective about Craig and this season, and also, I guess, Jenny's perspective on production and keeping Craig there because he's clearly struggling with
Yeah,
alcoholism.
I will give a little bit of a proclaimer. Like, I'm a little bit of a Craig apologist, and I think it's like a
Oh my
problem.
gosh, no.
But go you, Sam. You take the psychologist point first.
Yeah, I think that Craig definitely has an issue with alcohol, and I think he acknowledged it last year, and it was easier for him to acknowledge it when he was in a relationship because he didn't need it. He had this like I think relationships feel really grounding and protective for him, and so he's able to feel like I don't know. I saw something that Craig, I guess in his book, talked about when he was really young. He was bullied a lot. And so if I'm going to like again kind of hold empathy for Craig, I think oftentimes when we see him explode is when he feels like he's being attacked or feels like he's being bullied in some sort of way. He's like made to feel small, and so he really kind of like attacks and like defends and gets into reactive towards that, and I think that gets intensified with alcohol for him because he isn't like alcohol is it like enhances your reactivity, it enhances like your senses, and so I don't know that he even recognizes like how loud or how intense he gets when he is drunk. So I think I think the reason he's getting upset feels valid, right? Like in the moment with Sally, like the feeling he was feeling of her kind of like she was poking at him, right? Like she knew
Yeah.
he was in like a sensitive state and poked at him, but the reaction is really bad and he really needs to reconsider his relationship with alcohol in a serious way. And it's like it doesn't matter if your feeling was valid when you react in an abusive and assaultive way. Like the
Right. It
way
was
he
very
was going at
abusive.
her was so uncalled for and so not appropriate towards like again, like it's valid that you're like don't come at me. Like why are you poking at me? Like that doesn't feel good. Like
Yeah.
and
And then
Vanita too at the
afterwards,
dinner was poking at him, right? She
yeah.
wanted to get him to react. And the problem is he becomes the problem by his reaction
Hmm.
being in a place like Charleston that is a little bit of like a male apologist. I think there's a lot of things about Craig being MAGA. I think there's a lot of like internalized misogyny and like white privilege that he holds that like I can react this way and people will still like me because I'm like a good looking white man, which
He's
has served
perfectly
him a
imperfect.
lot. Yeah, and it served him a lot on the show. And so I'm curious to hear what you think, Jenny, about like this production idea of like, do we keep this person or do we not? Like, do we keep enabling him or do we have to like, I don't know, can production be like, I will only keep working with you if you like go into some sort of substance? I don't know. Yeah, I want to hear
I
your
don't know.
thoughts. That's mine.
Okay. Okay. My thoughts are I think Craig was set up to fail this season. I think this season was the Get Craig season, both from Bravo fans who felt like he got off too easy in the Paige breakup, which is fair. I think also on the show, just everyone poking at him. I mean,
Yeah.
the fact that Sally decided to like sabotage his whole relationship with Charlie because she had a minor crush on him, but also really liked Austin, but also thinks she can claim like every man in Charleston so that Craig can't just kiss Charlie. Like some of the dynamic
Yeah.
on the show is like none of these people are sleeping together. None of these people are in
Yeah.
serious exclusive relationships. Why is this dynamic? I think Vanita kind of like taking Paige's side when she doesn't really even know Paige, but like is on a show with Craig. I think Craig was right to call that out. But again, it's like, it's the way he does it. But everybody on the show knows if you poke Craig, he's going to react this way. I think the drinking, he knows he has a problem. And I think the problem is that he has a party demon. Like me and my friend were talking about this the other day. Like when you just are partying and you're having so much fun, and then you're like, well, let's have even more fun by like adding shots and doing more and doing more. And he's got a party demon, and the party demon comes out. I guess maybe I
love that. I
watched.
love that idea of a party demon.
Yeah, I love
Because
that.
the way you described it was so perfect of like,
Yeah.
I'm having a good time, let's up the ante and have more of a good time. But like what we know is like when you start having shots and you're already drunk, it actually doesn't turn into more of a good time.
Yeah,
No,
it's
and
already
he
reached his peak, it just starts going down.
and
Yeah.
he gets angry. As someone who personally has a party demon, I've been there, and I think it's a little bit unfair because he's not the kind of drinker who sits at home and drinks by himself. And that's
Mhm.
and I'm not saying one's good or bad. They're equally bad. But I think Austin also like knows he has a party demon. And, he's also like, I like the party demon, but like, don't go to the other side. But a lot of times when you have repressed feelings, as so many of us do know, now we're getting to the cocktails part of Crime and Cocktails. That's when the crimes occur. When you get to that point, your emotions that you've been kind of like, I don't think that Craig would have reacted that way to Sally in the van if he hadn't just heard from Charlie all the stuff that he was saying about Sally. And maybe
Yeah.
because I saw the van after everyone was reacting to it. So I was like a little behind, and I was like, let me watch this. And then I was kind of like, yes, because they were in a trapped environment. And yes, because he's a man and she's a woman. I do not agree with the dynamics that went down. I don't like the way he handled it. He knows he handled it wrong. And then I think the next day he should have just tail between his legs, apologized. And I think in general, when I watch him, I don't think I don't think production has any reason to kick him off the show, because when I look at his behavior, I'm like, has Kyle Cook from Summer House not done worse? Like,
True.
And the only reason why we're not talking about that is because of the cultural dynamics. In New York, the women are strong. Like, if you have Kyle Cook yelling at everyone at the dinner table, Paige is giving it right back to him. And in the South, men aren't supposed to treat women that way. That's fair. Also hold true that Craig is actually a Northerner secretly. And when he was with Paige, I think everybody felt that he treated Paige badly, and we didn't see enough of that or get enough of that, or he wasn't exposed. And I hold that to probably be true. But I think the result of that was everyone trying to like get Craig this season, and like he played into it. I think he shouldn't drink. I think he shouldn't, drink on camera. He's had enough of these outbursts to have learned that lesson at this point. I also think if he wants to do his pillow business and all the things he wants to do in life, he shouldn't be on this show. I think being friends with Austin does hold him back. I think, being casual friends with Shep is fine. They work out together or whatever, but like, he is going to continue to be in this Peter Pan state as long as he's on the show. And I also think he's not going to find a quality person to be on the show with him.
Right.
I like what you said about like how Austin clearly like knows he has a party demon, and I think in some ways Austin benefits from Craig's party demon, because I honestly think that a lot of the cast wants to get him because when he was with Paige, he kind of was like holier than thou. He's like, I'm better than all of you. And so now that they're broken up, they're all like, oh, now we can like bring him down a bunch of notches. And they've all decided like, we're going to get you now. And I think particularly Austin, because I think Craig represents all these things that like Austin thinks he should be, that create a lot of insecurity for Austin of like, oh, I should want to get married. I should have like a thriving business. I should be able to do all these things. And yet like, I don't, and I'm not. And so like, let me make sure Craig like kind of comes down to my level or under so that I don't feel as insecure. And I feel like Austin kind of like unconsciously plays off of that a little. And like, then Craig responds and like, they're in this dynamic where like, at the end of the day, we have to look at the behavior that's most impactful. And Craig's behavior is really like kind of harmful both to himself, because it's like, how could that be good for your business, for you, right? Like good for relationships, right? Like immediately Charlie got the ick seeing him behave that way. And like, that might be a good thing for Craig to see of like, oh, if I keep drinking and behaving this way, my business isn't going to thrive. I'm not going to be able to get like, I was surprised that Paige stayed with him after some of the like tantrums he had on Winter House and Summer House, because she just like doesn't seem like that kind of girl to put up with that. Because like you said, Jenny, like New Yorkers, like they don't deal with men bullshit. Like we're going to like call it out and like not like we're not taught those like Southern mentalities of like patriarchy and
Yeah.
so I was kind of surprised she stayed with him for so long because yeah, like when he acts like that, I get the ick, right? Like we all get the ick a little.
I
Well,
think
I
he
think it's
started taking some
historical.
accountability too at that point with Paige, and I think that also helped her kind of stay.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, like you guys were saying, the only way he's gonna be able to move forward is with taking accountability again for his actions, and I think this is also where Austin's benefiting, is it's taken so much heat off him, where he doesn't have to take accountabilities for his actions this season because he's looking like the hurt puppy in his relationship
Mhm.
with Craig, instead of it actually being like, "No, you 2 are much the same person. We are just focusing or hyper focusing on Craig because we're getting the aftermath of his breakup with Paige. We're seeing how he's acting now, and all these women for some reason are flocking to him and fighting over him, which is when I do agree with Vanita of like, what is so great about Craig? We're literally watching him be an asshole to everyone. And yeah, I think, I think Craig would benefit from just not being on the show anymore, but I don't think he understands what life would be like without the show. And he can't, I think he craves that attention that he gets from the show. And that, like, what happens once he
100%.
loses it?
And that's why the women wanna be with him in the first place, because
Mm-hmm.
he's the star of Southern Charm. But also, like, I think, when Sam says, like, this is historical for him, like, the bullying and his triggered but, like, also what frustrates me, I guess, is, like, the gender dynamics on Bravo, I think the women are in some ways playing into it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they know that the fan base is women and that they're gonna take women's side, and they should, and I'm not disagreeing with that. I think, some of the women are getting away with behavior that is picking at Craig and not having to address it. Like, to me, Craig didn't do anything to Sally. He just didn't like her and wanted to date her. And now Sally has been on like a weird mission to destroy Craig.
Yeah.
And like, if you like this person, like, why would you act like that? And then for Vanita, like, my frustration with her was like, why don't you just address what you said about Craig at any point? And like, the only way she did it was at that table, like, in defense of Austin. And to me, I'm like, I just think there's a lot of like Southern dynamic happening. And I think that it's interesting that Craig has always dated these very strong women,
Mhm.
Naomi and Paige, because he likes a woman who can, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I'm not saying that's right. I hope he shows up at the reunion and like apologizes and owns his part of it and continues on like, he clearly does need help. Like, this is not a person who's,
Yes.
Mhm.
like, entirely well, and I was very disappointed that he said he was an alcoholic and then invested in a
Back.
spritz company and, like, continued
Yeah.
drinking. Like, for why? And, I wish it was, like, addressed better by anyone that wasn't Austin, basically.
Yeah. So true. So, so true. I mean, I think we could talk about all these topics for days,
Days.
which is so
Yeah.
fun. We've really enjoyed having you guys on and would love to do it again. This has been such a fun
Yeah.
episode. Where can our listeners find you guys?
So we're on Instagram on Unhinged on Camera. Pretty easy. And then Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere you can find podcasts, Unhinged on Camera. And yeah, we do a lot of deep dives. So if you follow us on Instagram, we always check our DMs. We'll try and take, whatever requests we can. We have a backlog of some interesting characters to dive into. So yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, and guys, don't forget to like, subscribe, everything Crime Cocktails and BS. Follow us on Instagram, Threads, every social media
All
platform
the
out there. I
things.
don't even remember what they are anymore. And yeah, also send us ideas. We love getting them. That's our favorite part. And come and listen to us again. Thank you guys again so much. It's been a pleasure, and we will catch you next time. Bye.